Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's History at High Noon program, the North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission. My name is Stacy, and I handle adult education here at the North Carolina Museum of History. If you enjoyed today's program, we invite you to head over to the museum's website at ncmuseumofhistory.org, where you can learn more about upcoming programs, exhibits, and digital resources. This is also where you can find more information about our wonderful museum shop and joining our North Carolina Museum of History Associates. Our associates and foundation provide crucial funding and support to the museum, which in addition to many other things, helps make programming like today's program possible. A few quick housekeeping items for today. If you're joining us in person, we will have a mic for a Q&A after the program. If you're joining us online over Zoom, we ask that you please keep your mics muted throughout the entirety of the program, and to please type any questions that you have for our guest speakers into the chat function located at the bottom center of your screen. At the end of the program, I will ask our speakers as many of your questions as time allows. So now it's my honor to introduce and welcome today's speakers, Kerry Bird, Director, and Quinn Godwin, Associate Director of the state's new North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission. Director Bird is an enrolled citizen of the Sisseton-Wahpeton Tribe and is of Lumbee tribal heritage. He is president of the Triangle Native American Society and a former president of the National Indian Education Association, the oldest and largest organization that works to advance cultural relevant educational opportunities for American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian students. Director Bird is a member of the Dix Park Community Committee, the local advisory board for the Ackland Art Museum, the North Carolina Botanical Garden Foundation Board, and the UNC Worldview Council of Advisors. He currently serves on the Alumni Committee for Racial and Ethnic Diversity and formerly served on the Board of Visitors for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Director Bird graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master's degree in social work from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Associate Director Godwin was born and raised in Pembroke, North Carolina, and is an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. Godwin graduated with a bachelor's degree in dramatic arts from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and holds a JD from the UNC School of Law, where he served as president of the UNC Native American Law Students Association in his final year. In late 2017 and 2018, Godwin completed the UNC American Indian Center's Native Leadership Institute as part of its third cohort. For the past 4 years, he has served as field coordinator for Governor Roy Cooper's Office of Public Engagement and Inclusion, where, among other tasks, he served as an outreach liaison to diverse communities across the state. So, Director Bird, I think you're going to lead us off. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Stacy. It's my privilege and honor to be here with you today. And I look forward to sharing some information about the North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission, as well as the North Carolina Indian population here in North Carolina. I'm going to start with, who we are. This is my tribal affiliation. In case you didn't know how to spell it, this is a more accurate spelling of our tribal population names. And then talk a little bit about the North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs. It was established in 1971 as an advocacy organization to serve on behalf of the American Indian population of North Carolina. It's made up of 21 members representing 8 tribes in North Carolina, the 4 urban Indian organizations, and 5 state departments. They send representatives. If the secretary is not able to attend themselves, they send representatives for their departments. The Commission of Indian Affairs serves the state population. According to the U.S. Census in 2020, there were over 130,000 American Indians who called North Carolina home. These are American Indians. These are individuals who identify as American Indian alone. So these are enrolled members or tribally affiliated individuals who identify as American Indian alone, meaning they first and foremost identify as American Indians. The 2020 census also noted that there were 180,000 individuals who identified with one race or the other in conjunction with American Indians. These are individuals who self-identify as American Indian as well as some other race because of their parental heritage. American Indians live in all 100 counties of the state of North Carolina. And as you can see from the diagram, there are certain pockets of the state where American Indians call home. You can see from the red, which is the Eastern Band Cherokee, the yellow to the north, which in Person County, which is where the Saponi live. The dark blue is where the Haliwa-Saponi tribe lives in Halifax and Warren County. The brown is where the Meherrin tribe calls home. The green area is where the Coharie Tribe lives. The light blue is where the Lumbee tribe lives, and the blue is where the purple, sorry, is where the Waccamaw Siouan call home. And then the urban areas, we have Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Guilford County, Wake County, and Cumberland County, where we have urban Indian organizations that reside. Our first tribe to talk about is the Coharie Tribe. They're located in Sampson and Harnett counties. Their tribal population is roughly 3,500 American Indians. Their chief is Gordon Jacobs. They're most known by their East Carolina Indian School. It was an Indian school that was established for the Indians who lived in that area, but it was also open to Indians who were from Harnett County, from Person County, who were Sappony, as well as those in the Waccamaw Siouan community down in Columbus and Bladen County. And they would actually travel to the Coharie community and actually reside with families in that area until they were able to get back home, either on the weekends when their family members would come and pick them up, or they may have to stay there for a little longer until family members were able to get them and take them home. They're also known from their Coharie River initiative, which has been very successful for them. They cleaned out a portion of the Coharie River in their community so that it flowed more freely, because they had buildup from beavers who lived in the area. And they cleaned it up, and they actually offer kayak tours down the river, and they share ancestral stories of their how they fished in the community, family stories of when they would take their young down to the river, and other things that they find spiritual and beneficial to them as far as healing properties. The second tribe is the Eastern Band of Cherokee, which is probably the most known tribe in North Carolina. They have full federal recognition as well. They reside in the Qualla boundary and the surrounding counties in that area, Swain, Jackson, Haywood, counties that reside around the Qualla boundary. Their tribal population is around 16,000, maybe a little more than that as far as individuals who identify as Cherokee. Their chief is Richard Sneed. He was elected to that office a few years ago. And they're best known from their Trail of Tears, the Cherokee Trail of Tears, which was when they escorted, as probably a nice way to say, they were basically forced removal of the Cherokee to the Western Territory of Oklahoma, as well as Cherokee who lived in Tennessee and Georgia, South Carolina. They were all kind of rounded up and taken or forced to move along the Trail of Tears. They're also known by the Occaneechi Indian Village, To These Hills, which is the outdoor drama that they're known for, the Museum of the Cherokee Indian, and Harrah's Casino and gaming facility. It's been very lucrative for the Cherokee as far as an economic driver. They've been able to, from their proceeds, from their profits, from that gaming facility, they've been able to build their Cherokee Hospital, tribal schools, and other beneficial services for the tribal community. So it's been very successful for them. It's something they've been able to expand upon as far as opening additional casinos, facilities as well. The Haliwa-Saponi tribe live in Halifax and Warren counties. They're our third largest populated tribe. They live in Halifax, Warren, Nash, and Franklin counties. Their chief is Occaneechi Richardson. She's a female chief. She's been in that position for a number of years. She has strong leadership. She works well with her tribal council. They're best known from their Haliwa Tribal School, which was a school that the Haliwas opened as an independent school that was chartered for them in the 1950s. They're also known from their powwow. They have one of the oldest powwows in North Carolina. It's typically the third weekend of April, and they would certainly like for you to attend if you have that availability. This will be the first, the powwow in 2023 will be the first they've been able to hold since the pandemic started. So they're very excited about the opportunity to have that powwow in person. So I know they're looking to have a large turnout. I would certainly Maryland Robinson. Hope State University, and then I think it was in the 90s, they changed their name to the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, which was very strategic on their part, because they wanted to show that they had the services and benefits that are offered by other universities in the system. They had the same quality of education services that were provided to other university students in North Carolina. So it was a really a big deal for them to take on that particular name. They're also known by their Lumbee Bank, which is a bank that was created by and for American Indians living in Robeson County. A group of investors got together. They talked about how they were really wanted to do something for themselves that was a self-sufficient type of activity. And so they built the bank itself. It's now a regional bank in the Southeast. I think they have they start out with this one bank there in Pembroke, and now I think they have like 14 in the region. They're also known by their Strike at the Wind, which is a outdoor drama. It's not currently operating, but they do offer it at various times during the year as an indoor drama at UNC Pembroke, as well as I think they've rebuilt their amphitheater, so they're able to do it outside now as well. It's at the Lumbee Cultural Center outside of Pembroke. And they also have an annual powwow, typically the first weekend of May. And certainly I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to attend that as well. The Meherrin Indian tribe is one of our smaller tribes in North Carolina. They're located up in Hertford and Northampton counties. Their tribal population is around 400. Their chief is Jonathan Caldwell. They've been recognized by the state since 1986. And they also hold a powwow the latter part of October. I know this year it was during the weekend of Hurricane Ian, but they moved it back a couple of weeks after then, and they had a really nice weather, really nice powwow. Again, everyone's been really anxious to get back in the opportunity to have powwows in person, because it's a great way to celebrate their culture, as well as celebrate their culture along with the non-Indians who live in their areas and make their way to those respective communities. The Occaneechi band of the Sappony Nation lives over in Alamance and Orange counties. They're probably our closest tribe to Raleigh. Their population is 2,000. Their tribal chairman is Tony Hayes. He has been their tribal chairman for a number of years. They were recognized in 2001. They're known by the Occaneechi village, which existed there in Alamance County, outside of Hillsboro. They make their home in Meherrin, a little area called Little Texas. And they also have an annual powwow the latter part of or mid-October as well. Again, it's a smaller community. They are establishing their own, recreating a replica of their historic village there as well. And then we have the Sappony Tribe up in Person County. They live in Person County, North Carolina, and Halifax County, Virginia. So they straddled the border between the two states, because obviously the American Indians lived here in various areas even before state lines existed. Their tribal population numbers are about 850. Their chief is Otis Martin, and their tribal chairwoman is Dorothy Stewart Yates. They've been in their leadership positions for a number of years and are quite knowledgeable of their Sappony heritage. They're recognized by the state of North Carolina in 1911 as the Indians of Person County. And more recently, I think in the 1990s or 2000s, they changed their name back to Sappony Tribe to reflect their heritage and their cultural identity. They're best known for their Sappony Youth Camp. It's a really exciting youth camp where they bring together Saponi youth from across the world, basically, to make sure that they know their heritage of their community. And so they're a very smaller, they're not only a small tribe, but they're a tribe that's, their leadership is the families that lived there amongst the people. So they're family oriented. Their tribal council is made up of the Stewarts, the Martins, the other family names that existed in that area, the Epps. But they bring together those kids so they live basically a week where they learn the most they can from about their heritage and from each other. So they build relationships amongst their family and who don't live in Purchase County any longer. And then they have a Saponi 5K. They're really big on fitness. And that was one of the things they established when they had the Healthy Native North Carolinians grant funding. And then we have the Waccamaw Siouan tribe, which lives down in Columbus and Bladen counties. Their tribal population is roughly 2,000 people. Their chief is Mike Jacobs and their tribal chairman is Terry Mitchell. Both are fairly, I'd say fairly new in their leadership positions, but they are very strong-willed individuals who really take heart in their cultural acknowledgement. They're known as the people of the falling star. So their story is that a meteor fell from the earth and created Lake Waccamaw. And so they attached that to themselves as their history. They have an annual powwow they had last weekend of October, and they're also known by their community garden. They've created a healing garden where they have the native plants that are native to North Carolina, and the various herbs and things that they use for medicine, traditional medicines in their community. Then we have our urban Indian organizations, and Cumberland County Association for Indian People was established in 1973. They're located in Fayetteville. Their executive director is Gladys Hunt, and they're known by their senior citizen program. They really take care of their elders in their community, making sure they have activities, food, and other necessities they may have and may need. So they're very centered on their senior citizen population. Guilford Native American Association they're found in Greensboro. They have a 10 county service area. They were established in 1972. And basically they had a lot of Native individuals who moved to Greensboro because of the textile industries that existed there. Their board chairperson is Frances Stewart Lowry. She is Saponi. Again, one of those individuals who left their home communities and moved to the city to establish residency and life there in the urban area. They're known for their Guilford Native Art Gallery. It's just housed there within the Greensboro city limits downtown. And they also have an annual powwow, which they kind of got restarted a few years ago, and it was very successful. Their powwow was the third weekend of September. And it was I got to go to that one. It was very successful. The Metrolina Native American Association, they're based in Charlotte. They also have a 10 county service area. And basically these organizations have service areas because a number of them own or operate what used to be called JTPA programs. And so it's based on the number of Indian populations that you have in that area. And so a lot of times they absorbed more areas to service because they were able to get more funding that way. They were established in 1976. Their board chairperson is Rebecca LeClaire. She's Lumbee. They have an annual powwow as well as a very successful golf tournament. Golfing is really big in the Charlotte area, as it is in a number of our Indian communities. And then we have Triangle Native American Society, which I most recently resigned from my presidency, but still support. It's based here in Raleigh. We have a 5-county service area. We service Johnston, Wake, Orange, Durham, and Chatham counties. We were established in 1984, and our board president is Wanda Burns Ramsey. We've been very fortunate to be able to partner with Dix Park Powwow, which is held out in Dix Park. That's a very successful powwow. This is our 2nd annual this year. And we've also in the past held a scholarship gala, which we raised money for our scholarship that we give on an annual basis. We've had to take the last few years off because of COVID and other restrictions. So that brings us to the American Indian Heritage Commission, which I'm very excited to tell you about. We were created with legislation in the 2021 legislative session by GS 143.B 135.5, which created us and established us in the legislative session. Our mission is to preserve, interpret, and promote American Indian history, arts, customs, and culture. So we're looking at a number of ways we can do that. And one of the main things that we've actually found, Quinn and I, being within the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, which is where everything happens that's arts related, is that it gives us a chance to give our perspective from representing Indian community. We're not the experts on our Indian community, but we are Indian ourselves, and so we can give that perspective to these organizations. So it's nice to have that perspective to share. Whether it's endorsing what they're doing, we give them ideas as far as what they could be doing, or just making ourselves aware of things that we can encourage our communities to take advantage of. Our goals are to assist in the coordination of American Indian cultural events, one of which is the American Indian Heritage Celebration, which will be held here on November the 19th. Advise the Secretary of Natural and Cultural Resources on the oversight and management of all state-managed American Indian historic sites. And we had the privilege of going with a couple of individuals, deputy directors from from our department, to visit the Hardaway site on Monday, and which is really a real treat for Quinn and I, because we were both unaware or ill-informed or just naive to this particular site and the history it has for the state of North Carolina and for Indians in the North Carolina as well as the East Coast. It's a very important site, and we look forward to assisting the department in managing that property and looking for ways that it can be better managed and promoted in the future. Promote public awareness of the annual American Indian Heritage Celebration here at the museum. We're very excited about doing that and participating in that. We will have a booth there where we will be able to say more about our commission, take ideas for what people would like to see, and so it's a really good opportunity for us to share what we're doing and to learn from others. Encourage American Indian cultural tourism throughout the state of North Carolina, really looking at what some of our tribes are already doing and give them some ideas on what they could be doing as well. One of those would be like what the Coharie are doing with the River Initiative. Some ideas about what they can do would be, setting up a site where they could have ticket sales for when they would like to offer the tours for the general public. So you kind of have a set dates when you're operating offering that ability for someone to come and tour, but really growing that into something that will be more of an economic driver for that particular community, as well as the non-Indian community as well, as well as Sampson County and Clinton itself. And we know that the Cherokee have a lot of things already going on with their gaming operation, with To These Hills, with their museum, and looking for ways that we could better help assist them in their activities. And then certainly the Lumbee with the Lumbee Cultural Center, the things they can be doing down there. We toured that as well. Their amphitheater, they have a swimming pool and recreational facilities, and really helping them kind of see what more they could be offering, or as they further develop the cultural center, as well as supporting things like the Occaneechi band is doing the replica of their historic site as well. And then advising the Secretary of Natural and Cultural Resources upon any matter the Secretary may refer to it. And that's just asking, offering our opinions on some things that may crop up that may need our attention, but they may want a perspective from American Indian population. Our commissioners are appointed by their tribal groups specifically. These are individuals who would know their tribal heritage from their respective communities. So we have Greg Jacobs, who is our tribal administrator for the Coharie. He's well known in that community and brings together a lot of wealth of information to his position. Lynn Harlan for the Eastern Band of Cherokee used to work prior in her past. She's now retired, but she was in promotions for the tribe. And so she brings a lot of that cultural tourism experience to the commission. And then Dr. Marty Richardson from the Haliwa-Saponi Tribe. He's a historian for his tribal community. He's been part of their language revitalization and just has a wealth of information from his studies and experiences. Then we have Nancy Strickland Fields for the Lumbee Tribe. She is the curator of the Museum of the Southeast American Indian down in Pembroke. Very knowledgeable, very studious as far as her pursuits of higher education. She's soon to be a doctor, but not quite finished with the studies yet. Jonathan Caldwell, who is the chief of the Meherrin, has that tribal experience of leadership. Forrest Hazel, who is a historian and works closely with the Occaneechi Band of Sappony as far as research on that particular community, but also taking research and interest in Indian schools here in North Carolina. So he has a lot of information that he's gathered from his studies and research of schools here, Indian schools in North Carolina, and how Indians went to schools, the benefits of Indians had going to these individual schools, but also the struggles they had when going to the non-Indian schools when they were integrated, and that experiences that they had. Then we have Kara Stewart, who's a librarian for the public schools over in the Burlington area. She's Sappony, very involved with curriculum education activities. She was a former member of the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. And then J.D. Moore, who is a cultural practitioner. He's with the Waccamaw Siouan tribe. He is a powwow MC. So he was just down in Onslow County this past weekend and served as their MC there, and has served as the MC for the American Indian Heritage Celebration here at the museum. And then Tiffany Pearson, she's a mental health practitioner down in Cumberland County. She's representing Cumberland County Association for Indian People. And Jennifer Revels Baxter for Guilford Native American Association. She's a longtime advocate for American Indian issues in the Greensboro area. Both her parents, Lonnie and Ruth Revels, were very active in Indian affairs. Both had served as chairpersons for the Commission of Indian Affairs. Both were very instrumental in establishing Guilford Native American Association. And so she kind of still has that drive that her parents had as well in regards to advocacy for American Indians. And then Rebecca LeClaire, she's also another person who's a big advocate for American Indian issues. She's leading an effort right now as far as mascots in the Charlotte area. And she's been a longtime leader for the Metrolina Native American Association. She's also a commissioner for our Heritage Commission. And then Sandon Jacobs, who is a practitioner of culture. He's also an MC for powwows. He's representing the Triangle Native American Society, and he's also Waccamaw Siouan. And then some things that we're looking to be doing as the Heritage Commission. We're currently working on our website and getting that developed so it will be up and running soon. Quinn's going through the training right now to be able to lead the content. He has established a Facebook page for our Heritage Commission, and we're working with getting a logo developed. What you see here on the bottom of this slide is it's a temporary logo for our commission that was designed for us. This is a placeholder while we get our formal logo developed. Promotion of Indian Heritage Month. We're excited that in the coming year, we kind of came on. I was hired in July. Quinn came over in late August from the governor's office, and so we've been very new in our positions. But we know that there's a lot of work that we can be doing with Indian Heritage Month promotion. November is the Indian Heritage Month, and we want to make sure that people are more aware of it next year, and there are more activities for people to participate in, more resources they have available to them. And so those are all the things that we look to have developed for November for next year. Then American Indian Heritage Celebration, the very successful activity that goes on here at the Museum of History. It's our 27th year. We look forward to contributing to the success of it in the coming years as well. We've both been on the planning committee for this year's activity, and it's just a really fantastic, dedicated group of individuals the museum has here, and the individuals they bring from tribal communities across the state to participate. And it's a really great celebration. It really is. They offer, we'll have a grand procession of the leaders. They will have dancing demonstrations with their regalia. You'll have practitioners showing their arts and crafts techniques. You'll have some lectures and presentations from individuals as well. And then we're also heading up tribal historic markers. So we have worked with the Historic Marker Division, which is within the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, to get historic markers for each of our 8 tribes. And these would be markers that would be the typical state markers. They're limited to a certain number of characters. So we have to write the information that will be presented on the markers. And then the tribes will have the ability or have the responsibility of identifying where those historical markers will be placed in their communities, whether they're outside their tribal headquarters, whether they're in a place where it's a more significant site for the tribe, if it's a place they want that's more visible to the community. But it's up to the tribes. It's something we're working on collaboratively with the tribes that as we develop these and as we move forward. Indian school markers is something we're going to be able to take the research that Forest Hazel has been working on, as well as others within their communities. And we're going to apply to a private foundation for funding those markers because they don't have the same, I'll say, significance that the historical markers for the tribes will have. So we'll have to go to a private foundation to get the funding to do those markers. But there'll be probably at least one per county or per tribal community, because there are multiple schools in the state that Forest has found in our community. So some may have more significance, like the East Carolina Indian School. There's also New Bethel School in the Clinton area. But we want at least one for a school there in those communities. And then the reinterment of native human remains. And this is something that's really important to Quinn and I. We've had discussions with our state archaeologists for remains that they have in their possession. They're really on board with doing something, but we'd like to create a place of significance to those remains to be reinterred, repatriated, and make it something like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, where there's some marker there where people could go and do a ceremonial blessing, reflection of the individuals whose remains those are. And so just some acknowledgement that they had important place when they were here living on the earth, but they're still respected now that they're no longer here as living, breathing individuals. But that's something that we are having conversations with the various people who are the people in power, and we've gotten their initial support. We're working with not only our deputy director and our state office of archaeology and our secretary for our department, but also with Greg Richardson, the director for the Commission of Indian Affairs, and Secretary Casual with the Department of Administration. Because we're really looking for ways that we can collaborate with one another. We're not in competition with the Indian Affairs Commission. We're here to work in partnership and collaboration with those individuals. And then we have Oral History Project. And this is where we're going to collect oral histories from individuals who have significant importance to their tribal communities and would be the knowledge keepers and wisdom keepers for those oral histories in their area. And we know we're very familiar with some individuals in our tribal community down the Lumbee, because that's where we were both from. But we know there are other significant individuals in other tribal communities across the state, in the Meherrin community, the Sappony community, and the Occaneechi community, that we also need to be made aware of, not only for us, but to capture those stories so we can share those stories with others, so that their histories will continue to live on beyond the individuals themselves. Because we know there have been individuals who have made significant contributions to not only their tribal communities, but on the benefit of Indians as a whole, but also to their respective communities, non-Indian communities where they live. and we want to capture those stories so they can be preserved. American Indian history curriculum. This is something we're also looking to do. We're not trying to do anything that, we're here to support whatever's being done and create new ideas for other things to be done. And so we'll work with State Advisory Council on Indian Education. We'll work with the educational departments at some of the universities and within some of the tribes to develop some history curriculum that can be used. And these could be modules, lesson plans. I know we get a lot of questions for people to come speak, for people to come perform, for people to come, they're craving information out in the public schools. And so this will be another way that we can support that need and fill the hole in the bucket that's been left, that we can help solidify that information. And then we have the American Indian Leaders Booklet. This is something that we saw another commission that had done a leaders of education for their population group. And so we thought we would start with a booklet that would highlight an Indian leader from our various tribal communities and urban organizations that had made significant contributions to those tribes or tribal communities. And so we're looking at developing that booklet in the coming years, and ways that we can identify individuals from those tribes, getting their input into who they would like to see highlighted. We're starting out initially with individuals who are deceased. So we figured like that would be the easiest and most receptive way to do a booklet, because we don't want anybody fighting over like, I'm more important than Quinn, Quinn's more important than Quinn, or anything like that. But we figured like, everyone would have a leader that they would feel in their community that should be highlighted. And then our proposed committees, we have a history committee, education committee, arts committee, research, and tourism. And these are some that Quinn and I had initially proposed to the commission. And then they added tourism, really looking at how we can promote American Indian tourism within our communities, and why they thought that was important. And that was a very good topic, and got a lot of discussion during that meeting. We had our first meeting October 14th. We were able to get 10 of our commissioners there. One had a death in their tribal council and could not attend, and one was getting ready to have a baby, so she couldn't make it. And then a couple other things we're working on. We're working on the moonshine and motorsports. They're, again, one of those things that we found within the department that we're able to collaborate with individuals. And so they were asking us like, well, what were some things that were happening in the Native community around this particular topic? And we're like, oh, sure, we had cars and moonshine being developed in most of our communities. And we may not know exactly who, but we know of their existence of that happening. And so making sure that they have some reference to American Indian in their upcoming collaboration of moonshine and motorsports. As well as North American 250, there's a committee that's actually looking at making the plans to celebrate America's 250th. And they wanted to know, how do we include American Indians in that celebration? And how would they like to participate and be in that particular, recognizing that particular celebration? Because obviously it's one of those things that can be kind of difficult to say. It's like, how do you celebrate the 250th anniversary of America when it's like, well, you stole our land? And it's really about acknowledging the contributions we've made to the country as it's been developed over the years. So I think that's the healthiest way to talk about our contribution, not necessarily celebrating the creation of America, but celebrating the contributions that we've all made together in making America the great country that it is. And so I think that concludes the portion that I had prepared for. I know Quinn's going to come up and assist with the question and answer part of it. And if you have any questions, now's the time to put us on the spot. And I think there is a microphone for anyone who needs a microphone. Stacy would be glad to assist. We've got a couple of hands.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I volunteered across the street, and so I was a little late arriving. I'd just like to know if you've got some material that's already prepared that you could make a presentation for a group. Is that already developed?
I would say we can make something available. Yes.
I do the programs for my senior group, part of the Park District. And I can talk with you at another time or next week at the other event. Because I'd like to do a presentation before my senior group. We're all seniors from 60 to 90. And I would, although we live here, there's a lot we still don't know.
Right. We'll help you. Appreciate it. I think one of the other things in our discussions when we had our meeting about the contemporary Indian experiences, and making sure that people understood what were our 20th century experiences, that we had to live a certain way because of survival. So it used to be that Indians came to Robeson County for survival purposes. Their numbers dwindled. Europeans were encroaching on their lands, and it was more survival. So they came to live in the swamps. But in the 20th century, we may have been living next door and not really saying much about our identity, just to be safe and to be neighborly with the people who are our neighbors. So we didn't necessarily look and dress any differently than anybody else, because we basically needed to blend in. And so when we lived in brick houses, we lived in wood houses, we ate the same foods from the grocery store, we dressed the same as everybody else. So we didn't necessarily have to stand out, because we needed to not stand out. And so, we had those same struggles with civil rights. What were Indians doing during the civil rights, social justice unrest? When did we get to vote, and when do we get to exercise our right to vote? I know in Pembroke, they didn't elect their first mayor until the 50s, because I assumed Indians weren't intelligent enough to vote and select their own mayor. And then we had an issue with double voting in the 70s, where all the residents of Robeson County got to vote for the school board of the county school system, even though the cities had their own school boards in their own city school systems. So there was this big issue like, well, Curry gets to vote in his Lumberton city district, and he gets to vote for the county school district. So they kept the minorities off the school board, because the non-Indians were able to vote. And so you had issues like that I think that we can help promote the visibility and understanding of our experiences, so that we're not just about the feathers and powwows. I mean, we had things like that going on, as you can see from the John White drawings. We were dancing around some poles in his drawings, but it wasn't necessarily a powwow type celebration. It was probably a more ceremonial type celebration that was depicted in his drawings. So that's part of what we're doing.
And I think you asked something about our youth and the youth being involved in things. Curry was there's something called the North Carolina Native American Youth Organization. And that targets high school students. I believe it's late middle school as well, but just getting them trained in tribal governance, our culture. And there are a lot of tribes and practitioners alike in community organizations that will hold culture classes for the ancient part, the practitioner. So there are a lot of ways that we train our youth up, and that's something that we want to focus on. You saw in the presentation, working with the State Advisory Council on American Indian Education, and just making sure that we're generating that buy-in from the younger people in our tribes.
I thank you for the presentation and the responses to the questions. I had two questions. I know it's early in the history of the commission, so you probably don't have an official position on land acknowledgements, but I would love to hear your perspective on that. And with regard to the naming, so will there be efforts to connect the other parts of the state where at least currently tribes aren't located in the naming? So for instance, here in the Raleigh area or even the Triangle, right? There's very, in my view, little representation of indigenous peoples in this area. And it comes to light when people are trying to name parks or whatever the case may be. And it would be really good to have Indian acknowledgement in that process.
Good questions. Where to start? Land acknowledgement. I guess I would say I'm in favor of land acknowledgements if they're being given in a respectful and honoring way. And I think for the most part, you're asking about names of tribes and living in certain areas. And then we had kind of had the same discussion with Dix Park. And it's hard for us to say, this is the land of, this particular tribal group, because there's no known history of a tribe actually living on that particular land known as Dix Park. Now, natives traveled all over the state, so it was absolutely indigenous land. So it can be acknowledged as being indigenous land without saying this is the land of the Occaneechi, this is the land of the Haliwa, this is the land of the Cherokee or the Lumbee. And we were tasked with developing a land acknowledgement for our department. And I think we've made some good attempts at doing that. But I think the question becomes, I think you take a generic land acknowledgement like we've developed and then make it more specific to your tribe. If you happen to live in the land of the Lumbee or the land of the Haliwa or the land of Saponi, to fine tune it and make it more respective of those tribal areas. I think as far as naming something like we were just at Hardaway site, and one of the things they were talking about was that there wasn't a name for Morro Mountain that we think of that's a traditional name for the mountain. So we can't go back and change this particular mountain to a traditional name if we're not aware of one being existing for that particular mountain. But doesn't mean you can't adopt a modern traditional name for that particular mountain that would be more reflective of the native culture of North Carolina.
Cherokee with the cleaning stuff.
Yeah. So I guess that's my question. I think one of the things with land acknowledgements too is, in my opinion, land acknowledgement should be about the land and not the people who built the buildings on the land. So it's not necessarily a land and whoever helped build the buildings on the land, because I still want to acknowledge the slave experience, but at the same time, the slaves, the uneducated, the non-slave individuals who were forced to help build the property were also important. But I think a land acknowledgement itself should just be about acknowledging the land and not the buildings that exist there currently. My opinion.
Do we have any questions from Zoom before we wrap up? Okay. Thank you both so much for being with us today. We know that, to your point earlier, you just got on the job around 4 months ago, so you have a lot going on. But thank you for being here. Sure. And last question for everybody here and on Zoom. If people would like to learn more about the commission, where can they go?
Facebook or to our website.
Okay, so like he said, we're developing our website right now. I'm getting trained on something I've never done before, but there was a lot of links that DNC already had on their website. And we're just putting that information together along with our program information that you've seen here today. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the African American Heritage Commission. We were modeled after them, and they've had a success since 2017 and what they've done. So a lot of the way that we're set up, even our website, the way it's going to be set up is based on them. So we'd like to give thanks to them and Director Angela Thorpe and her Associate Director, Adrian Nearday.
And really just we appreciate opportunities like this because one of our tasks is to create more visibility and recognition of the American Indian population of North Carolina. So anytime we can do that in forums such as this, in presentations elsewhere, through our website, like Quinn said, there are a number of resources already that the department had. We're just trying to be that conduit for that information to get out. So people can come and search, find us first, and then from us, you should be able to find out what's going on at state, state archives, state library, arts council, the marketing with motorsports and moonshine, any of those types of things that we can connect. We can be that connector to those opportunities is what we see as one of our biggest tasks, because we're a two-person commission, dynamic duo. And so we're just looking to make not just our lives easier, but we're making the general public's lives easier when they're seeking information on American Indians.
So in other words, stay tuned and keep checking back. Thank you both. Again, let's give them a round of applause. And we hope that you all will join us at our American Indian Heritage Celebration happening on Saturday, November 19th, as Director Bird mentioned. And we hope that you'll continue to celebrate Native American Heritage Month as well. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay.